Hi everyone, my name is Kayla and welcome back to Kay's Hidden Shelf where we talk about books. Today I have a reading update for you and I am just so excited to talk about this, and I'm going to do my best to describe the book and the experience I got from it without spoilers. I don't know how well I can do it, but we're gonna try. The book I am talking about is The Land of the Living and the Dead by Shauna Lawless. This is the final book in the trilogy for Arc 1 in the series, the Gale Song series. So think of this as like a bit of a conclusion to an arc, but leaves enough open that you can continue the story in Era 2. And this went in so many directions I did not anticipate. But it was done so well. Everything was pulled off so well. There were moments that did feel a bit dramatic, overly dramatic in some cases, but I was able to overlook all of that because it worked with the story. It sets up so much while also leaving it a little closed-ended. Whether or not it's going to be purposeful developments, we'll have to find out in Era 2. But essentially, with this being book 3 and seeing the direction of the characters, how everything up to this point has come to a full-blown reveal or development, or has set up the stage for something even grander, is just, it was phenomenal to read. I still stand by this being a top-notch series. It's fantastic. And the fact that the author is able to encompass so much of that in her story and everything that she's just created here is incredible to me. Keeping in mind as well that this is an Irish historical fantasy pulling from Irish folklore and Irish history. And the fact that she was able to blend that so well together, I now want to go back and read the Irish history behind all of this to see where she filled in gaps, where she added with her own world and creations and magic, and what is actually history, because it is just so fascinating. So in order to keep this spoiler-free, I'm not going to delve too much into this, just that this is everything I hoped for and more in a conclusion to the beginning, like the first era of this story, and how it ties everything that it's set up so well together while leaving room for the story to continue. Really, it's to the point where this just feels like I'm reading the lives of people. And there's so much possibility when that happens in a story, when characters are so well articulated, so well written, that it feels like anything could happen, because humans, as much as they can be predictable, are also very unpredictable. So that sense that I get while reading this is something that I just strive for, I look for, I love when I find in stories. And this is absolutely on that list of books and series for that reason. Another aspect that I really enjoy from this book particularly is that we do get more insight to the story through new eyes as we get new POVs within this one. And it's nice to see some of those side characters get their own perspective and to see some old characters come back, especially since this takes place 14 years after book 2. So it's been quite a bit of time since the last book in the series. So there's, again, just so much more possibility for things to happen, go wrong, go right, everything in between. And the way that the author takes that entire story and takes the lives of these characters through all of it is just gripping. Like I said, there is some drama, but what's life without drama, depending on the character, because one of them in particular is a little on the dramatic flair side, in my opinion. So it's just wonderful to see how it all came together. This is going to, I think, stay one of my top series for quite some time. And I am so excited to continue with the start of Era 2, which is Daughter of the Other World, which is releasing in Canada and the USA on November 11th. But for those in the UK, you already have it. So by all means, if this is a series, sounds up your alley, you want to check out. I cannot recommend it enough. After The Living and the Dead, I began The Curse of Shalian by Lewis McMaster Bujold on a recommendation from Tori over at Tori Talks. And I can absolutely see why she recommends this. I'm about 60 pages in so far, which doesn't seem like a lot, but the print on this is quite dense. So I feel like this is one of those deceptive books that's a little bit bigger than it actually appears. But I can absolutely see why Tori recommended this. It feels like a slow burn, very intimate look into the main character, their perspective, their experiences. And we start off with that main character, Casriel, as he is walking toward the one last hope he has for some semblance of a future after everything he's experienced post-war, being a prisoner and sold as a slave despite being nobility. And so seeing such a broken but resilient man, trudge his way across the country in hopes that someone back home will recognize him is incredible. And when I say incredible, I mean moving. It's a kind of character you can't help but cheer for, and we get such an intimate perspective into that you can't help but want to be on their side and support them, even in the moments where they aren't necessarily sharing their exact feeling or thoughts. But because of how descriptive this writing style is, you get a sense of it regardless. And for all of those reasons, it's already quite moving, and I am so invested in Casriel's journey at this point. And to be able to articulate all of that in such a short period or short page count is really impressive. To come back a little bit to the story, Casriel is making his way to the noble house he once served in hopes of finding someone he recognizes, or more importantly, recognizes him and gives him an opportunity to have some kind of future. And he gets just that. He ends up becoming the secretary tutor to the very strong-willed daughter and sister to the older brother who is next in line to rule. So she has quite a strong will to her, and all of the naivety that goes along with that young but very brave and outspoken type of personality that goes along with it. And because of that, can make some foolish mistakes. And so having someone who was a leader in a war and is used to soldiers and men now try to guide a young woman to become a better leader, to become a better and more productive member of the noble household that she is part of, is quite the challenge for Casriel, especially when he is working on rebuilding, well, I hope he is working on rebuilding, but essentially he is broken in spirit himself. So it's quite an interesting dynamic, and how he handles her is just spot on. There are some lines in this where I'm like, it's so few words, but you have pinpointed a teenager to the absolute accuracy in just a few sentences or a few words. And because of that, it makes it all the more believable, all the more relatable. And it's descriptive but direct. It is purposeful with its dialogue use, and one of those stories I think would really call to a lot of classic fantasy readers, but also those who love character driven stories where we are really seeing the heart of these characters. And I think all of that just goes to show that that is my first impression of these 60 pages. That's only 60 pages that I've read. And that is my takeaway from it, which is quite impressive when you're looking at it in number wise, for that to be the first impressions that I get off the 60 pages out of 400. So I think that is more telling than anything about the quality and the type of story that you're walking into with this one. I am so eager to continue, and that leads into my next conundrum, which is I am also listening to the audiobook of this, borrowed from my library. And I love doing immersion reading. I will read the physical copy while listening to the audiobook. And my conundrum comes into play where I had 3 library holds come in at once, and I don't know how to prioritize. I don't know what to do because they all have limits. None of them I can renew. And if I do renew them after the deadline, then it's going to be another few months wait. So my conundrum is, how quickly do I read this one? How quickly do I binge this? And then how do I navigate the next 2 books that I plan to read? Because one, I know I can binge in 2 days because it is book 5 in the Memoirs of Lady Trent series. And historically, with the other books, I have been able to binge those in 1 or 2 days. Just because of the type of story it is. It's a comfort read. It's much shorter in comparison to the other 2 books I have. But then the next book I have planned to read, again, the audiobook is borrowed from the library for an immersion read, and that is The Song of Erebor, A Song of Erebor, by Guy Gavriel Kay. And this is also a chunky beast. I need more time in the day. So my current plan is to read as much as I can using the library holds that I have. And yes, I know I don't need the audiobooks in order to continue reading as I have physical copies, but it's a nice to have, especially when I've started a book with the audiobook and being able to finish it without having to return said audiobook before I'm done the story. I don't know, there's just something about it. It's not a necessity, it's just a want. But that is my current conundrum in terms of reading. So leave your comments below. What do you think I should do? Should I just ignore life and read and listen to audiobooks with the physical copies? Or do you have another suggestion? Apart from that, I would love to know what you are currently reading as well. Leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear what's a book you have been loving, a series you have been loving lately. I mean, we all need a good TBR buster at the end of the day. As always, thank you so much for watching and take care of yourselves.